one of the old fold-out maps, you know. We've gone to GPS now. You still have some? I looked and the only one I have is bike trails, which I use. But I remember the old days when we used to try and find our way using a map? And, you know, unfolding that thing and holding it up, and how in the world we're still alive, I don't know, but it really will get crazy. I drove bus for Biola, and all over Southern California, and I had to go by those little maps. And anyway, got to watch overs. Today we have GPS, an amazing phenomena that it is. It was actually invented in 1973 by the Department of Defense. And the first satellite went up in 1978. Now, I've just always marveled by the technology. If you go on the internet, you can see details. I can see my own house. I can see the things that are in the backyard. I can go on and see my brother's backyard in South Dakota, and I can see when he moves his junk around. It actually shows, you know, it's phenomenal, the amount of detail that it will. But GPS cannot go through solid surfaces. So if you're inside of a building, why, then the GPS doesn't work. With all the blessings that the GPS has been for us, it's not perfect. Okay? And 3 women were using the GPS in their Mercedes and up in Bellevue, Washington, and they were following each turn, and finally a turn, and they followed it, and it led them right up a boat ramp. And off the end of the boat ramp, the car sunk, the 3 women were rescued, but faulty GPS. In southern Germany, there was a couple who were following the GPS, and it instructed them to turn right where there was no road. They just relied on the GPS, and so they went ahead and turned right, and it plowed right into a church and did $25,000 damage. So GPS is not perfect. The car we had before we have this one we'd be going up the 261 freeway, and it would tell me to turn off, and then I turn off, and then you get right back on, and you just go. No sense to it whatsoever. And it did that every time I drove on the 261, until I finally got to where I ignored it. So, well, let's talk about, this is what I call God's GPS. 2 Chronicles 16:9 gives us a picture of that. And 2 Chronicles 16:9, I call God's GPS God's people search. And 2 Chronicles 16:9 says, the eyes of the Lord search the whole earth in order to strengthen those whose hearts are fully committed to Him. The entire globe. God is looking for hearts that are fully committed to Him. Now, let me point out several facts. Let's go ahead and skip ahead here. All right, there we go. We've got facts on GPS. So, 1, it operates 24/7, obviously. God never sleeps. He knows everything that is going on. Secondly, in contrast to human GPS, God's GPS is incredibly accurate. So, down to the most minute detail, God's GPS is accurate. God sees the entire globe, plus the entire universe, and He sees it all at once. And, Jonah wasn't too bright when he thought he could run from the presence of God, right? And so, he tried to flee, and he should have known better. There's no place you can go and get away from God's GPS. No place. Fourthly, God's GPS gives direction to my life. And I don't know whether you've done this, but when you have the GPS and it's telling you the turns and everything, it tells you to turn right and you turn left. And the GPS comes back and, recalibrates, and then you're supposed to turn. And my wife would say, I like to frustrate the lady on the GPS, just doing my own turns, going where I want to go. And do we do that sometimes with God's GPS? Yeah, I think so. There are times when I'm going to set the course. I'm going to make the decisions that I'm going to make. God's GPS sees amazing details about what we do, what I think, and everything. Now let's flip over to Psalm 139, verses 1 through 4. David remarks on the incredible fact of God's GPS here. O Lord, you've examined my heart. Going on all the time is God's cardiac program looking at our spiritual heart, not our physical heart, but examining our hearts continuously. David goes on and he says, you know everything about me. He knows more about me than I know about me, than Joanne knows about me, than anybody else knows. He knows every detail. And you know what's amazing? He still loves me. Now that is astounding. He knows every failure, every sin, everything that I've done that's displeased him, and he still chooses to love me. So that's God knows every detail, everything about me. You know when I sit down. God knew when you came in this morning and you sat down in the chair. He knew when we stood up and we sang. And God knows us. God knows when you sit down, when you stand up. God knows when you're going to take a nap this afternoon. You know my thoughts from far away. When I wake up in the morning, you were there. You are continuously, what theologians call omnipresent, always constantly seen. You know when I travel. You get on a plane, you go see family, and God sees you right there, seat 12D or 11A or whatever it is. He knows exactly where you are. He knows what's going on. He knows every thought that is passing through your mind. So you see me when I travel. You see me when I rest at home. You know everything I do. You know what I'm going to say even before I say it, Lord. I'm going to pause for a moment. God already knows the next thing I will say before I even say it. Wow. Okay. So God's knowledge of everything that is going on. So the more we can live with an acute awareness that God is continually there, his eyes are upon us, and he's checking our spiritual heart to see if it's tuned to him. Now, let's go a step further. Number 6. God's GPS knows every detail, even before I was born, to my very last day. In Psalm 139, David goes on, and he uses some beautiful, incredible language that is here in this passage. He says, you, God, made all the delicate inner parts of my being. The word that is used there is actually the word for kidney, but he's just talking about all of the internal organs. All right? God is responsible for that. You designed all my inner parts of my body, and then you knit me together The idea is there to actually put skin over, protective skin over all of the internal organs. And you knit me together in my mother's womb. Thank you for making me so wonderfully complex. Your workmanship is marvelous, how well I know it. You watched me as I was being formed. Form there really refers to the basic frame or the skeleton of our being. And all of this was taking place in utter seclusion as I was woven together. Now, the woven together is just a beautiful term. It was a term that was used for fine tapestry with beautiful variegated colors that are all brought in there. And God was at work assembling your life, putting it together, all the details, everything that would be prescribed in terms of your life. You were there. Woven together, fine tapestry, in the dark of the womb. You saw me before I was born. Now get this. Every day of my life was recorded in your book. Every moment was laid out before a single day had passed. Every single day, every single moment, God had his hands, and he knew when we were wandering or straying or away from him or rebellious or whatever it could be. He knows when we're in pain. He knows when we're feeling anxious about things. So that's the amazing thing of how God has shaped me. Over in Job, I'm going to jot it down as a reference. Job reaffirms the same thing. He says, did you not pour me out like milk and curdle me like cheese? Great poetic language. Clothe me with skin and flesh and knit me together with bones and sinews. You gave me life and showed me kindness, and in your providence watched over me. I was looking at, even with all of our scientific knowledge, there's a lot in the prenatal development of the baby in the womb that scientists still don't understand, because it is so miraculous, it's so amazing. This next slide will show you the development of the bones and the tendons and the ligaments. So you start out there on the left side, you have the cartilage that is there, and then you see it develop through each stage, where the blood vessels come in and all of that. What do you think? Chance or design? Does that look like something that happened by chance? I don't think so. Yeah. I had a neighbor that lived next to us for a number of years, and when we moved in, he said, I'm an atheist. I said, oh, okay. And so we kind of respected that. And one day I said, why don't you play a little game? CD, I call it, CD game. Chance or design. I said, anytime you look at something, he was a strawberry grower, and anytime you look at a plant, look and ask yourself, do I think all of that amazing process going on there happened by chance or by design? I mean, a few weeks later, come back and said, wow, I think there's a designer behind all of this. And then came the day quite a while later, and he finally came to know the Lord. And he met me out in the alley one day, and he said, his wife had passed away. It was pretty lonely. He said, could I come to church with you tomorrow? And I said, yeah, we'll let you in once. We have that kind of relationship. We're always kidding each other. So I knew he wouldn't take that wrong. I said, Okay, what time is it? And everything. So he arrived at church and was sitting there in the back. And I happened to be speaking on John chapter 3, the new birth. And so I went through, explained all about the new birth and everything. And then I gave the invitation at the end to invite Christ into your life and to be born again, is what Jesus talked about. So as we were praying, I just kind of saw him out of the corner of my eye, and he got up and he headed for the door. And I kind of thought, well, at least he heard the gospel. I guess that didn't go over very well. And so later that afternoon, I'm home probably about 4:30, 5 o'clock, and I hear a knock on the door, and I go to the door, and there's my neighbor, Don. And he says, could I come in and talk to you? And he said, I want to apologize for leaving. I was weeping so hard. I prayed that prayer. I was weeping so hard. I was so embarrassed. I didn't know what to do. So I went out the side door there. He says, what happened to me? I said, you were born again today. Wow. And I don't think he missed a day of church for the remaining days of his life. He just loved it. His life was changed. His life was transformed. So we see things like this. Chancellor Design, obviously, there's a designer when you see that kind of miraculous thing. Now, I want to show you something from photo album. Well, this didn't make it into our photo album, but it ought to be. You want to know what I was like when I was really, really young? All right, let's go to the next slide. There I am, 30 hours old. No larger than the head of a pin. That's where we started. This rapidly dividing embryo is 30 hours old. Already, 46 chromosomes have combined to determine all the characteristics of your life. All right, let's go up to the next picture. There. Cute little baby there, 3 weeks old. A little heart starts beating. July, 3 weeks. Then you look at 7 weeks, the facial features are all visible. The eyes have a retina and a lens. And then at 8 weeks, one more week ahead of that, the unborn child is about a ½ an inch long, just about that length. But his or her heart is already beating, all right? The eyes are already taking on their characteristics. So 8 weeks, ½ an inch long, fingers are now visible, toes are developing, and the brain waves can be measured. That's at 8 weeks. 20 weeks. That's big. 20 weeks old. The child can hear and recognize her mother's voice. That is, you said it. Amazing! 20 weeks old. And you see, the baby can be held right like in the palm of a hand. Though still small and very fragile, the baby is growing rapidly and could possibly survive if born at this stage. Fingerprints and fingernails have already taken shape. So your identity that will one day be used to identify who you are with fingerprints, those are already imprinted. They're already there. You also designed your ears by this point in time. Did you know ears are unique to every single person. It is a form now that they can use that is as accurate as fingerprints, because the ears, even between identical twins, the ears are uniquely different in every single person. I always figured that, if you had big ears, you'd have good hearing. If you had small ears, well, you'd need hearing aids. I haven't found that to be true. My ears are pretty good size, and I need hearing aids, all right? Seems like it makes sense that way. That's not how the program works. So God has uniquely designed us. They're 20 weeks old. And He already knows about your life ahead, knows every detail that is there. Charles Swindoll said this in his study Bible. These verses contain some of the greatest words regarding the unborn. The embryo, which becomes the fetus, which becomes the infant in the womb, is life right before our eyes. The Spirit of God probes the womb of a mother and knows us individually before we are born. In many cases, conception is looked upon as an unfortunate accident in our world today. No, not an accident. No accident. God is the one who forms every single human life. Even if your parents didn't plan on having you, you're no accident. God planned you, and you are a human being made in His image. You have dignity and capacity and purpose and a reason to live. God, the creator of the entire universe, went to all that work to plan every single detail in our life and to plan it out so intricately, knowing everything that's going to happen. He says, I love you. I love you. He said, I want a relationship with you. God, the creator of the universe, wants a relationship with me. Go back to that verse we started with. The eyes of the Lord search the whole earth in order to strengthen those whose hearts are fully committed to Him. God's GPS, God's people search, scans over this audience that we have here today, and He's looking for hearts that are fully committed to Him. We belong to Him. Our hearts are the wellspring, I'm talking about the spiritual heart, are the wellspring of life within us. Proverbs chapter 4, verse 23 says, guard your heart above all else, for it determines the course of your life. Guard over your heart. I want to ask you, what is the number one affection that you have in your life? The number one affection that you have in your heart right now. It's very easy for that to get divided. Very easy to stray and to look for other things. Now, I want to give you, I sat back, I was amazed at this. You read, to strengthen those whose hearts are fully committed to Him. I thought about the word commitment being an act of my will. Okay, Lord, it is an act of the will, but here's what surprised me. The word committed is related to the word shalom in Hebrew. Peace. Really? It is shalem, which comes from the same Hebrew word, shalom. Now, let me put that together. You want peace with God? You want peace in your life? Give Him your entire affection, your entire heart affection that will be fixed on Jesus. That's what He wants. Let me give you a moment just to pray right now. Lord, take my heart. Fix my affection, my heart on you, O Lord. May you, as you scan the entire globe, find me, one of those people, full, totally committed to you, experiencing your peace. I pray in your name. Amen. You know, when you are fully committed to the Lord, it settles everything else. That's why there's peace. Lord, I'm yours. I belong to you. My heart is with you. And He gives to us that goes with it the peace that transcends all levels of understanding. Helen didn't know this when she picked the hymns this morning, but she picked, I told her earlier that one of the hymns was the story I was going to tell later on the lesson. No information that she had about that. I was going to tell the story of Robert Robinson, who wrote the great hymn, Come Thou Fount of Every Blessing. During the time that he wrote that song, he was near to God, had a living fire in his being, but slowly, imperceptibly, the fire dimmed, and one compromise in his life led to another compromise, and over the years he drifted farther than he ever intended until the man he had once been felt like a distant echo. So he is, several years since those days when he wrote that song. He met up with a lady and was very fascinated and attracted to her. And as they began to get to know each other, discovered that she was very insightful on spiritual things. One day, as they're talking, she said, I want to show you my favorite hymn. And she reached into her purse and pulled it out and unfolded it, and there it was. Come thou fount of every blessing. He was shocked. He tried to change the subject. He froze. A storm of recognition within him, and he tried to deflect it and try to pass it. She pressed him again. What do you think of this hymn? The dam broke and the tears flowed. Unrestrained, uncontrollable. Years of distance, regret, and quiet misery poured out of him. Finally, through trembling lips and with tears, he said, I'm the man who wrote that hymn many years ago. He said, I would give anything to feel again the joy I knew then. He returned to God that day and into fellowship with Him. So we're going to sing Come Thou Fount of Every Blessing one more time. I want you to notice the words because they're rich, they're wonderful. And think of this man, Robert Robinson, maybe your story in more ways than one. So let's go ahead and stand if you're able, or we'll just sing the song and then we're going to begin. Say next part. So, oh, Jesus, let thy goodness like a friend, my wandering heart to thee, prone to wander over thee, prone to live on my Lord. Is my heart knows in sea for Let's make that stanza there our prayer. Lord, prone to wander. Lord, I feel it. Prone to leave the God I love. Here's my heart. Here's my heart. Will take and seal it. Seal it for that course.